That was amazing. Welcome to the Sweet and Sassy Show podcast, Jen Carpenter and Molly Lowe. This is episode number 20. Today we're going to be talking about how to master motivation when your energy and your alignment are off. And as usual, my topics that I come up with apparently are in perfect alignment today, as Molly has some very pertinent things to add. Um, Molly is the LinkedIn business queen. Optimize and monetize your LinkedIn profile. Tell us a little bit more if you'd like.
Absolutely. Hey, y'all. Hey. LinkedIn business coach and consultant. And yeah, like I always say to my clients, I'm not on LinkedIn because I think it's fun. I'm on LinkedIn because I'm here to make a lot of money. So if that's anything like you, then you should probably give me a follow. Send me a connection request. Let me know that that is how you stumbled across me.
And what Molly talks about is strategy and spirituality, which we have almost a whole episode on that. And the fact that spirituality is a much larger missing component. Many people are on the strategy piece for quite some time, but what they tend to be missing is the spirituality and the mentality of what is required. So, for all of that, Molly Lowe is who you are going to go to. I am Jen Carpenter, Secure and Savvy Solutions. What I'm most passionate about is what I call mind flow mastery, and basically focusing on working with entrepreneurial parents who want to have the mentality and the skills and the tools to be able to navigate the ups and downs of life and business, especially when you come from a past of different traumatic experiences and things where your mind gets in the way from stopping you from taking action. So that's what leads us to our topic today. But before I do that, I'm going to tell you a brief story. Finally, after 20 episodes of our podcast, Molly and I met last weekend in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, at the Milwaukee County Zoo. So we got to meet for the first time in person. It was super fun. We hung out for a few hours and had a great time with our families. And we happened to show up wearing the exact same dress, but in different colors. I said, "Is that Molly?" Molly was a little shorter than I realized in person. And I was like, "Is that Molly? That's Molly." And here we are wearing gym shoes. She has a white dress on. Mine was kind of an off green color. And my mom had just given it to me 2 days prior, but it was sitting in a closet for 2 years. She bought it 2 years ago, gave it to me 2 days prior, and here we are. We meet for the first time wearing the exact same dress. It was pretty wild. And talk about alignment.
I mean, I kid you not. My both of my sisters, when they saw our picture, they were like, "Did you guys plan this?" I'm like, "This is your friend." I'm like, "Yeah, but we did not plan it whatsoever." And it was like, it literally was a holy shit, girl. Like, look at you, look at me. Yeah, we're
It was
totally on the
awesome.
same vibe. It was awesome.
It
Totally.
was super awesome. And yes, we had a great time. The weather panned out. It's a beautiful zoo. I actually haven't been to Brookfield in Chicago in a long time, but I would go back there any day. We had a fantastic time. It was a great place, like everybody had said it was. So, all right. Molly was talking about how she was hanging out in a coffee shop today doing her thing. So, why don't you start it off and we'll go from there?
Yeah, I actually had, so let me just preface a little bit too, is that, of course, things always happen the way it just needs to happen. And one of my clients actually said in their business critique with me that she feels like she's just busy and she's not being productive. She doesn't have the energy to do anything, et cetera, et cetera. So I was helping her work through this, and sure enough, here I am finding myself in the same zone. So, here's the thing. All right. I think that just as you mentioned, I blend strategy with spirituality, y'all. Okay. And so here's the thing that I've come to realize. One, we've said this before, we're going to say it again. If you are not tracking your energy, whether it's week by week, within a month, day by day, within the week, highly recommend that you do so. What you're going to find is that there's going to be moments where you can literally realize that you're like, oh my gosh, yeah, I'm actually not feeling motivated at all. Literally not motivated. Now, it comes a point where there's, as entrepreneurs, we are CEOs of our business. There are things that we're just going to have to do, right? A lot of the times we overthink and we make everything feel like it's a must do. And that's where we get trapped. Okay. So one of the things that I've started to implement is think tank time. And this is a term that I learned in corporate that I incorporated into my business. I do it a little bit differently, but this is what I do. I know that Thursday mornings, because it's already towards the end of the week, I know that my energy pack is at that point. I blocked off my Thursday mornings for just a couple hours to literally sit with my thoughts and to jot down, okay, one, what are the things I need to do? What are the must do's? How do I prioritize that? And when I look at the list, it's like, ooh, which one actually feels exciting from this to-do list that I know I need to tackle today? And so these think tank times really does help me to just refocus on the remaining little bit amount of energy and motivation that I do have left for the week. And you'd be surprised sitting in silence with yourself and just letting these thoughts flow out. And I'm putting it's a random list on my notebook. The amount of clarity that I actually get through this, that I'm like, okay, today may not be the day for me to actually take action, but I am jotting down these amazing little downloads and pings that I'm getting that I do want to start potentially executing on and taking action towards when I do have a full cup, which is usually on Monday and Tuesday. So that's how I go about navigating my week when I just feel like, yep, I am not feeling it today and I got to figure out something's got to happen. But, let's really take off that pressure that we put on ourselves to do all the things. So yeah,
And
that's
scheduling it alone is the alignment piece and the systems piece of it, knowing that this is where I need to shift. And maybe again, you have this in place, but you look at, I talk about reflecting all the time, reflecting on a daily basis, what's going well, what's not going well, a weekly basis. Maybe you have this system in place, maybe you keep it, or maybe it evolves of 3 months from now. You know what I mean? You might keep it, but again, this is you've been doing your business all this time, and here you just decided, okay, this is time to add. You have your CEO Mondays, you have your think tank Thursdays. Now, look at that. A couple hours of think tank Thursdays. And is the fact that I'm getting at that things evolve and grow as you shift and expand and grow in your business, personally, professionally, whatever it is. I really appreciate that you brought up busy versus productivity. It's something we talk about quite a bit. And actually, what I've evolved into as part of what I do with my program is that, especially as a parent and an entrepreneur, you want to be able to be present and productive. I'm an extremely productive person. I have to have systems and structures in place to make sure I am present, that I am present for myself, that I'm present for my children. I'm going to give a random example. I just walked upstairs, they're playing. A lot of things go in my mind that it feels like work. Work, there's this, got to do this, there's that with the kids. Everything feels like work. I have to make sure that things don't feel like work. I went upstairs, they're playing, they're having fun. I'm super grateful they're having fun, but I'm like, oh boy, there might be a lot of work. They have a whole big mess going on up here. So I go straight into productive mode, is what I'm getting at. That I couldn't, I had to just stand there and consciously tell myself to just be present and be happy that they're playing and having fun, even though the window's open while the air conditioning's on and they're playing McDonald's drive-through the window. So
I love that.
my brain goes straight to, oh gosh, what work am I going to have to do because of this? Whatever, totally random, but completely relevant as to what we're talking about. So, focusing on the fact that it is possible, okay? You have to have system structures in place to be present and productive. Recently, I put in creative time and space into my calendar on Wednesday nights that I'm going to make sure I hang out with my kids, play a game, play video games, color, whatever it is, to just give myself that committed time and space in my calendar to be present and creative. We lose that creativity very often when we're doing constantly and are not spending enough time just being. Okay. So I love that you talked about that. Um, Tracking your energy. This reminded me of our last episode about the sound baths and the moon cycles, which again, I still don't know a lot about, but same kind of thing here. today and yesterday, I just felt exhausted. And it's not even the time of the week. It could be related to the time of the month, but I just normally I'm rock solid in my work schedule on a Thursday, but I had a doctor appointment this morning. And I was like, you know what? It's okay to shift today. I already knew the things that I needed to do yesterday. I put it all on my calendar, go to the doctor, drop off donations, get this stuff out of the back of my van so I can get a new oven picked up tonight. Normally, I am solid working 7:30 a.m. to 3 o'clock on Thursdays, but I didn't feel great. And I was like, okay, well, this is fine. My body just wasn't feeling it today. And I was like, all right, well, at least I'm doing these other things, and that's okay. That's okay. I will still get my top three priority tasks done as the day goes on. I'm recording with Molly at 2. I have a meeting. It's okay. It doesn't always have to be the same structure. It can change and evolve, is what I'm getting at. Um, and that goes to what I was going to talk about too with doing tasks when they make the most sense and when they are in alignment. So you already just talked about you've shifted your structure. Um, I've had to realize too that like this is another example. When I get off of my networking event on the first and third Thursday, I usually am super motivated and inspired. And then I go into creative mode and I want to go start writing from my notes from the event. I have 3 pages of notes from our guest speaker, like every time that I'm just so inspired by the conversation. And I'm like, you know what? I end up doing this after every event. I need to give myself an hour to go through my notes and pick out pieces because it always aligns with what I do and that I can actually write some of my content from there and whatnot because I'm so inspired. I'm like, oh yeah, this was awesome. So I've factored that in now that after my event, instead of just being like, oh crap, I'm behind schedule because I decided to go into creative writing land, that I'm going to give myself 30, 60 minutes after my event to absorb all of that because I love it. I feel really good and I'm inspired. So why not harness that and use that energy and alignment to just write some content or whatever it is. I'm always very inspired. So I know I babbled a few different things that I can go back to, but I figured I'd turn it over to you.
Yeah, no, I love that. And you're spot on too. I think too that when we think about motivation, we forget that, a lot of the times we have this like dare I call like toxic sense of urgency and guilt and pressure that we put on ourselves to doing things. I was just at a networking call that I was invited to by a colleague of mine, and they talked about we talked about scheduling and juggling it all as moms and entrepreneurs. But they had asked, they said, Molly, like, did you feel guilty at one point where you didn't get everything done on your list? And I said, I'm at that point in my life where I do not feel guilty if I don't finish things on my list. But it took, the reality is the truth of that. It took me a long while to get to a point of being like, okay, yeah, today's Thursday. My energy pack is really low, and that's all right. Right? I shared with you that I'm hosting my workshop tonight. I have to preserve what's left of my energy for
Yes.
that. Right?
Yes.
And so when you can understand your body, when you can really truly tap into
Yes.
your energy level and not making it wrong or shaming it or putting
Yes.
any of that pressure on yourself, it
Yeah.
makes it so much easier for you to then, to your point, integrate moments of think tank time on Thursdays for me, CEO Mondays for me, because I know myself well enough at that point
Yeah.
to have that, right? But you're right. It really does. It does feel like we're always juggling at the same time, a million different things. I've just learned, I'm not perfect. So there's moments of like, ooh, I probably should have done that, right? Like, for example, real life example that happened yesterday. I wanted to spend time with my family and my kiddos. And I decided, okay, what needs to happen? I had 2 sales follow-ups, right? And I'm like, those are things that I'm gonna do. Those 2 things, absolutely check that off. And I think that that would have been, if I didn't do those 2 things, because it's revenue generating, why would I ignore that? Number one. And number two, there really would have been a FOMO, like, oh, if I didn't do it, like, because there is that sense of momentum, right? When you're having conversations
Yes.
with people.
Yes.
And if you feel like, yeah, they're great fits, you want to make sure that that conversation continues. And so it's also, I share that to say, you gotta learn how to differentiate between what you believe is something that is urgent, that's a healthy sense of urgency for you, versus having that toxic sense of urgency, like, oh no, I didn't get everything done. And this is what I said to my client in her business critique. I said, flexible schedule. I know that sounds like, how can you have a schedule and a routine, but then also have it flexible? You can't. Again, it goes right back to knowing what it is that you need to get done and feeling in alignment with that energy of, yep, I feel good. This is exactly what I have available for energy and time. This is what I'm going to get done today. It's all right. That's the reason why we're the CEOs of our business. We can do what we want to do in our business. This is why a lot of us are in business, especially as moms, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, lean into it, embrace
Yeah.
it, and don't make it feel so icky.
You said so many great things. A lot of what I'm seeing today too, people are talking about is presence over pressure, that pressure to get things done. Um, no guilt for what you're doing. So I talk about love and compassion for yourself, that it's okay to not get everything done. Um, urgency versus emergency, right? Things can be
Love that.
urgent. It's priorities. What's your top priority? Is it a top priority today that you have to focus on those one or two income producing activities? Or do you need to pour a little more into yourself today? Like for me, I haven't done a ton of other things to address it, but I was just giving myself a little grace. I just didn't have a lot of energy. I didn't feel really good. And that's okay. I usually will grind and push through that, but it kind of worked out that I scheduled my day the way that I did, and I was grateful that it worked out that way. There's a lot of other days where I might have to throw something else into the mix because I do need to be on point and conserve my energy for something else in the day, like you said. Today worked out that things align that way. But like I was talking about before, what we think is hard is hard. What we think is work is work.
Mhm.
We tend to tell ourselves sometimes in a productivity standpoint that things are an emergency when they're not. So I like that I kind of just developed this little thing, what's urgency versus
I love it.
versus an emergency. Things are usually not emergencies. If it's not completely urgent or life-threatening or whatever, it most of the things we think are an emergency are not. We control our schedule, we control our time. We can only control, again, what we can control. But in some cases, what we do, what I suggest, anyways, I'm very actionable, is you write it down. If you're going through your day and then there's this and there's that, I keep a list again in my phone as a brain dump of all the things, mom stuff, work stuff, personal stuff, whatever. Keep a brain dump list document in my phone that I add things to, or as I'm going through the day, I just write it on paper and you plug that into your schedule later. If it's not an emergency, it doesn't need to be addressed right now, and you can address it later. So most things we think are an emergency are not.
100%. That reminds me of the conversation I had with the group of ladies that I was networking with. I used to work in healthcare for 10 years and I was in recruiting, right? And you know that saying that they say, oh, nobody's going to die? Well, in healthcare, if you don't staff a nurse, if you don't staff a doctor, if you don't staff, like, they may potentially die. It's a totally different perspective, right? And so anytime I have that, like, that, I need to do it because, oh no, it's emergency or like, no one's gonna, remember, you're not in healthcare anymore. It really isn't that much of an emergency, right? It's a, yes, I want to cross it off of my list. I want to get it done, that kind of thing. But yes, I'm always reminded of the 10 years that I was in healthcare and I was like, nope.
Well, and I love that you add that because I am almost 20 years in healthcare, and now that I'm part-time 2.5 days a week. But yeah, the brain still has a tendency to operate that way when I was operating at the speed of light for 20 years. So very quickly, even with the kids too, and this goes with just presence and being anxious or feeling stressed, again, we cause our own stress. I was going to say that too. things are not always an emergency, and we tend to cause our own stress. We say things are hard and we make it hard, and it doesn't have to be hard. It can be simple, it can be easy. Um, but I go very easily to that mode, is what I'm getting at. So, emergency mode, maybe I've said this before. I learned from the one therapist I worked with in 5 sessions, and then I fired her because she had terrible business practices. She taught me it's just a smoke alarm going off. When you start to feel your heart racing, or you think, oh, I got to do this, I got to do that, or there's an emergency with my kids, it's just a smoke alarm. Paying attention to your body, recognizing what's going on. It's just an alert. Or if it's fear or the guilt that you talked about, the judgment, the pressure, when you feel that alarm go off, you have to ask yourself, okay, what's really going on? Why am I thinking this? We don't always get quite into the feelings in the moment, but why am I thinking this? And be able to turn it off more quickly is essentially what I help people to be able to figure out how to do. It's just a smoke alarm going off. It's not an emergency room. And one of my other, someone in my network that I'm working with now, actually, she said to me one day, and I almost took offense to it. And at first, because I don't typically get offended or feel guilty, like you said, she's like, it's not brain surgery, Jen. And I think it was just the way she said it. But I was like, yep, you're right. It's not brain surgery. We're not, it's no big deal. It's okay. Everything's fine. No, we are not performing brain surgery. It's just email marketing. It's not brain surgery. So that is very helpful stuff. That helps me in the moment. It's just a smoke alarm going off. And yeah, it's not brain surgery. It's okay. We can shift or pause if we need to. Um, I talked a little bit about the brain dump. No, that was yeah, brain dump I talked about. Again, a document in your phone or write it next to you and then plug those things into your schedule. Scheduling creative space, like I talked about before, having that in your calendar to allow you to flow, energy and alignment. In those aspects, some ways you can do that. But let's just close out maybe, and I didn't even get to some of the other notes I took about what do you feel is the key thing when you I want to say need, but it's maybe not right. Are required to be productive and be on point when you don't have the energy and the alignment. What are some things that help you that you could share? I have a couple ideas as well, but I'm curious as to what yours are.
Yeah, honestly, because I focus primarily on the monetization side of things, right? That's where my brain goes to.
Yes.
Quality over quantity. Quality over quantity, right? And that always boils down to why we differentiate between productivity and busy work. So, here's my tip for you. When I think about quality, I think about revenue generation. So if you have limited time, limited energy, I would recommend for you to take a look at your list, and I want for you to look through it through a lens, a filter lens of which ones of these things, one, is revenue producing, and two, I actually feel like, yeah, you know what? I can do this today, and that's actually something that I would like to do. I may only have, 25% left in my energy battery. Okay, cool. For 25%, can I do said revenue generating item on my to-do list? So that's what I would say. Because at the end of the day, right, there's a lot of things that we as entrepreneurs, as solopreneurs as well, if you are a one team show, or maybe you only have respectfully like a VA that's on your team, you still have to delegate. You still need to be able to say to them, this is what I need for us to focus on today.
Yeah.
And so I always say, focus on quality over quantity, and that quality typically will boil down to revenue generating responsibilities and tasks that you can focus on for the remaining energy that you have available.
I appreciate that. And I was so engrossed in what you were saying that I completely lost my tip. Quality over quantity. At the end there, I'm like, oh crap. Oh crap, I lost it. Um,
Happens to all of us.
that's okay. For one, motivation is aha, I got it back. Motivation is intrinsic and external. So like it's not a actual emotion, if you will. There's internal and external factors to motivation, is what I'm getting at. But doing things when you do not feel like your energy is aligned, you're not aligned and you can't um move forward. What is the cost of not doing it? So kind of what you said, to focus on the income producing activities, the things that you can't just always do the things that feel good. I tend to fall into the creative space and I'll get too much into writing, which content writing is extremely important, but I'll get more into I guess the perfectionism piece comes up. I'll rewrite things sometimes because I do enjoy writing, but that's like you're getting lost in space of the perfectionism that nope, just leave it as it is. It's okay. Put it out there and see what happens. So the perfectionism piece is something that will stop you from taking action. But being able to um do what feels right in the moment as well. And again, what is the cost of not doing that? So you have to be able to balance the fact that, okay, yeah, I need to focus on these very two important income producing activities. What happens if I don't? Is that going to be that you don't have the income you need for yourself or your family? Does it look bad for your brand? There's certain things that I have to be very, very careful about with my presence of the quality of work that I do, doing things on time, doing what I say I'm going to do, producing quality work in the clients that I have, and putting what I need to put into my business to grow what I need for me and my life. And like for my networking event, I have to be able to show up on point as often as possible. So those are the things that I have to do, even if my energy and my motivation are not aligned. Um, but yeah, so what is the cost of not doing those things if you choose not to? Is a better way to look at it when you're losing motivation and you're like,
Absolutely.
well, I don't feel up to this today. So
Yes, 100%.
awesome. So I didn't even get into it and I won't because I don't want to make these episodes too long. I've gotten a little longer here and there because I get so excited about our amazing topics. But um just the fact that briefly, and maybe something people can look into more, but I was doing a little research about the topic and the fact that about motivation, it basically is a combination. There was a really cool diagram that came up about mastery, which is the feeling of competency, continuous improvement via feedback and reflection. So just mastering something is part of all of this. And again, that reflection piece is what I wanted to get to. Autonomy is the control that you have, the ability to do what you're doing and have control in your situation. And purpose. We all have a purpose that most of us are in entrepreneurship for a greater purpose to serve others, to serve the world, and live life on our terms, really, like whatever that may look like for you. But the fact that where they all kind of came together, the three pieces were dedication, desire, and discipline. So you have to have dedication, discipline, and the desire for all of those things to work together. So that's a whole nother topic in its own, but those were some things I had pulled up before we started talking. So thank you for joining us today. This is episode 20. We're calling it How to Master Motivation When Energy and Alignment Are Off. Thank you for joining us. This comes out the second Friday of every month. So anything you'd like to close out with, Molly?
No, I love it. I think we're prepped for the next episode
There
already.
you go. Excellent. Yes, definitely. So please take the time to connect with each of us on LinkedIn across all socials. This is on the YouTube channel, the Sweet and Sassy Show podcast. If you'd like to learn more for any reason, please definitely grab a time on one of our calendars and we'd be happy to chat with you. So join us for our next episode. Thank you for your time.